I can just about see my image in the lens. Can you am? Look at that. Yeah. Hi.
And this is all incriminating stuff you're getting here.
Enough of that.
I got some of you the other day, didn't I? Yeah. How's the scar, Alan? Is it
Just about gone now. Just about right. Yeah.
Why'd everyone run away?
They're on candid cameras.
When are we going to get a chance to see them?
One day.
left of what? On my left.
Evening! Ladies and gentlemen, as you well know, we have today the biggest group of retirees I think that flight ops has ever had. And they're all flight engineers. And I've often wondered what you call a group of flight engineers. You know, you'd like to have a gaggle of gear, so maybe a main course of flight engineers, perhaps. A cholesterol count of flight engineers.
Pilots, Bangkok.
A Bangkok of flight engineers, that's called pilots. A Teagle of flight engineers, I don't know. I thought of a cluster of flight engineers and figured that really wasn't the thing we were after at all. But we've got 14 people who've retired over the last week or so. And Pete will talk shortly about the enormous amount of service that represents. And I know that if we ever were looking for a group of people who epitomise the good things about this company and what it's done in the last 50 years, then flight engineers would be high on the list. So it's nice to have you all here. I'm going to hand over to Pete, who has the daunting task of saying appropriate words to, did we get 14 finally or only 30?
We've got 13 here today.
Ha! Go to it!
Thanks, Fred. Well, as Fred said, this is very significant in that the numbers who have retired in this last week or so have represented 282 years of flight engineer experience, 305 years of company experience and service, and 450 years of industry experience. And that really is significant, and I'm very mindful of the loss of experience that we have within the flight engineer group, and certainly of the contribution that they have made to the company and to the flight engineer group and to the industry. And I certainly wish to acknowledge the combined service of all of those flight engineers. In recent times, with the change in structure of the company, Fred is getting the department motivated, and he locked us up in a motel the weekend before last. It was the best weather of the summer, and so that was the weekend he picked to lock us away. And we looked at target setting and all that good stuff. And the thing that I thought about was that in the 3 months from December through March, as the one who is heading the flight engineer group, what happens to me is that I lose a quarter of that group, I lose half the standards establishment, I lose my deputy, and Fred says it's fun. So what it means for me is that I've got to do more for less and with much fewer resources. And what is most important is that we maintain the standard that has been established over the years, and which all of these people who are retiring have contributed greatly to. We're going to have to be careful in doing that, and I'm sure we will. But certainly the foundation that so many of these people have laid have put us in good stead. Now, with such a large number, I'm afraid I've got to revert to notes, because otherwise I'm going to come greatly unglued in this process, and what we'll do is go through an alphabetical order, and after we just say a few brief words about them, Fred will present them with a photograph that we have here. So the first one is Noel Baker, who just... Noel spent 21 years in the RNZAF, and most of that was spent as a flight engineer. He joined Air New Zealand as a simulator instructor in the DC-8 simulator. He, like quite a few people over the years, has battled authorities with medical problems, and has kept on top of that, and has done very well to do so, I believe. And he spent some time there as a simulator instructor, and 11 years ago the company was able to offer him a position as a permanent flight engineer, which he took with enthusiasm. And so from that time, when he of course went straight on to the DC-8 and spent some time instructing on that, then came onto the 747 and has been there till the present time. So Noel, could I ask you to come forward and...
I don't know what that is.
Well, we're still in the B's, and it's Colin Blackman. Colin commenced his apprenticeship with Teal in 1963, and he spent a year in Wellington after he completed that apprenticeship as assistant station engineer. Spent 2 years in Tahiti as station engineer, and I'm sure a lot of the crews who went through at that time remember him there. He joined flight operations in 1974 as on the DC-8 as flight engineer through the various types. In 1982 we had a downturn in a way similar to what we have now, and at that time we were able to release people overseas and cope with the surplus that occurred at that time in that manner. And Colin was amongst the group who went over to Ansett, Australia, and was with them for 18 months or so. And he returned at the end of '83 onto the 747, and of course that's where he was when he took the redundancy, agreed to take redundancy. He's the youngest of the group who have done that. He's interested and always has been in the agrarian sector, and I think has shown the utmost faith in the agrarian sector by buying into a large lump of land up Kawakawa Bay, and so from now on he's going to devote his energies to that, and I think we certainly wish him well in that venture. Colin? Graham Corkle. Killer joined the RNZAF as a boy entrant in 1953, and he became a flight engineer there in the RNZAF in 1961. Joined in New Zealand as a flight engineer on the DC-8 in '74, '81 on the DC-10, and '83 747. Now, we pulled out of Honolulu, well, did so much less flying through Honolulu. It was considered that there could well be a problem with the economy there, particularly the brass rail. They said that Killer was one of the main supporters of it. That can't all be true. He got a good conduct medal in the RNZAF, and I'm sure that is still the case, and I'm sure the brass rail will still survive. Killer, if you'd like to come forward.
It's my pleasure to have flown with you people, and my experience to have flown behind you.
Follow that.
Maybe we shouldn't relate at this stage the...
Yes, we should.
Years ago, when we got the 747s and we were up there dealing with Boeing, and the Boeing flight engineers are a bunch of grizzled up old characters who've been there for a million years and are still there, some of them. And they were always highly delighted to raise the comparison of a stagecoach driver and a flight engineer. They both sit behind a pair of horses' asses. So maybe that's not a problem. Brian Cox, his career was a little different in that he joined the RAF as an apprentice at RAF Halton. And after he finished there, he came out to New Zealand and he joined Teal. He went to tourist air travel and worked for Fred Ladd at Mechanics Bay. I always recall Brian crawling over widgeons there. And then he, after 2.5 years there, he rejoined Teal and in 1966, and then started as a flight engineer on Electras in 1967. DC-872 and DC-1076. In fact, his personal file doesn't show when he went onto the 747, so I'm sure he was on type, and I just hope you're being paid for it, Brian, when you're there. Brian has always been a keen sportsman and an outdoorsman, a keen hunter and sailing, and I'm sure is making the most of the Auckland summer with the sailing now and the breeze that we've been having, and certainly wish you well in that, Brian. Brian Grimwood's next. Here's another different career path. He joined the RNZAF as a navigator and subsequently joined Teal as a navigator in 1964. As we know, the navigators became surplus to requirement with the introduction of Doppler onto the DC-8, and so the navigators were faced with a change in their career path, and that's pretty daunting for anybody to experience and to go through. And Brian, amongst quite a few others, picked that up and ran with it, and he saw the advantages of becoming a flight engineer straight off without going through any other training process. And, so he did that and was amongst the first of the group of navigators to retrain as flight engineers. And so he qualified as a DC-8 flight engineer in 1973, went through the other types until he's finishing on the 747. He's a public-spirited person and has been actively involved in Kawani's Club, holding high office in the Howard group, and with several of the others is going off to Malaysian Airlines fairly soon to take up a year's contract there. We wish you well there, Brian. Mike Hewitt's the senior citizen, if you like, of this group. Not perhaps quite senior by age, although very close to it, but certainly in continual company service. And he joined Teal as an apprentice in 1954 and spent some time in Christchurch Station with Eddie Raper, and those of you who remember Eddie Raper, station engineer in Christchurch, will realise that he's a very thorough person, and I'm sure that a lot of that thoroughness rubbed off on Mike. He started as a flight engineer on Electras in 1961. If anyone lived here was Neb Hay, who was on the same course as a flight engineer at that time. And he's always been willing to help and assist wherever possible. And my first experience of that was when, as a flight engineer newly employed into the department, Mike came and conducted our A licence course. The more junior people who in later years have been required to have their licence qualification before they join the department, perhaps like to know that the department did it for them, for us in those days. And so Mike was appointed to the task. In fact, the letter on his file says he was selected for the task, and he was, but I think selected and being told exactly what he would be doing. So he helped quite a lot of us through the licence courses. He did it willingly and was of great assistance, and we certainly appreciate it, Mike. Also on his file, and I don't know whether you're aware of it, Mike.
I've never seen it.
Another letter. Les, at the time, you appreciate that flight engineers used to go back into the hangar for months at a time because they were really owned by engineering and were released to flight operations because Ken Brownjohn, who was the flight ops manager at the time, wouldn't increase his establishment above 13. And so they thought it was a good thing that they put these guys back in the hangar, because supposedly it was good for their aircraft knowledge and systems knowledge and all the rest. So Mike did, in fact, get some of that time replaced when he was doing instructing, but he had an A and a C licence from the time he was in Christchurch. With the coral rig operation, they used to carry a service engineer. Engineering didn't like the cost of that very much, and Les Bristol wrote to Brownie suggesting that Mike be used as a flight engineer on all flights to Tahiti, and be the service engineer when he got there. But they said it didn't give them enough flexibility, so and he couldn't do standbys if he did that. So possibly didn't do it. That input that Mike's had is continued, and he's made great contribution to the department, to flight engineering. He's assisted greatly with information that we've put out, the technical information manual. Mike had a big part to play in that. And he's, as he was finishing, still giving us information on new seats that we can give to the crews, and it's been a great help. So, Mike, if you would come forward. Now, the only genuine retiree amongst this group is Pop Knox. He reached retirement age on January 4th, and he joined the RNZAF in 1953, and I'm surprised that he went flying at all. My understanding that he was hanging around at one stage when the pilot was taking the Delta for a flight. They used to do gunnery training practice with the Navy, and then they'd tow a drone and the Navy would shoot at this thing and sit there. The Navy would practice that way. So Pop was sitting in the back of this thing, and the Navy was firing at the drone, and the engine quit. And the next thing Pop knew was they was floating around in the water, and they got out and rescued him. But of course it was absolutely devastating for the poor guy that had fired the gun, because he thought he'd shot the aeroplane. Anyway, he obviously decided that flying was the thing to do, and he became a flight engineer in the RNZAF, and joined Air New Zealand on the DCH in 1974. And so it's gone through the DC-10 and 747, and as I said, the only one amongst the group to reach retirement age at this time. So, Pop, if you'd like to come here. Now, Dave McPherson joined the RNZAF in 57, and was there till 64. He was an engine fitter, I think, finished at Woodburn. And joined TL as a flight engineer on Electras in 1965, DC-8 67, DC-10 74, and 747 81. I remember seeing Dave in Sydney when he was on the 747 course over there, and we used to pass in and out of there pretty regularly at the time. And remember Dave asking questions on various aspects of the 747 and just being delighted at his dedication to the task that he was doing, and that typified his approach to the job right throughout his career with the company. And he's always given it his best and been absolutely reliable and great flight engineer to have there. His personal file is that thing. And half of the personal file relates to Los Angeles postings. He is the king of Los Angeles and the postings. He must hold the absolute record, in spite of what Les Allen claimed, for Atlantic crossings. And I've got to say that at times we would have been really stuck too had Dave not taken those postings. We certainly appreciated them. Dave is also going to Malaysia for a year, and certainly wish him well up there. Barry O'Connor's next. Barry was an apprentice in NAC, started in 1953, and when he finished his time he went over to the UK, did his overseas experience over there, worked for a year or more in the industry. And NAC were taking delivery of some Viscounts and needed a service engineer, and thought, well, this is a good idea of getting one. They didn't have to pay his fare over there, so they rehired him in the UK, and Barry came back to New Zealand as a service engineer on a Viscount. He worked in Christchurch for a bit longer, and then went to Hamilton as station engineer in Hamilton in 1960, and then joined Air New Zealand in 1966 as a flight engineer on Electras. He followed the similar pattern right through all the types he's been on. He's done training work on all types. He's done supervisory work on all types. He's picked up, without notice, he took over from me on the DC-10. We had, I think, probably a 2-hour handover period. Barry just picked it up and ran with it and did a great job. And he's really given a lot to the company and to flight engineers as a representative on the association, and certainly as an executive in the flight operations department, and particularly in over the last 18 months as deputy chief flight engineer. He's done a tremendous amount of work. He's been great support and assistance to me, and I'm certainly sorry that he's going. And, I'm sure that we'll remember the work that he's done. Barry,
There's no refunds, Barry.
Butch Quinn, like Brian Cox, was an apprentice at RAF Halton, and returned to the RNZAF and became a flight engineer there. Joined Air New Zealand as a flight engineer on the DC-8 in 1973, DC-10 77 and 747 in 82. Quite a long time. Butch has coped with medical problems and has stayed on top of that, and he's done very well to maintain his license throughout that time. And, I think it's a very good example to all of us, and well demonstrates his determination and dedication. Butch, would you like to? Gary Somerville was a airframe fitter in the RNZAF, 1953 to 61. He, after he left the RNZAF, he was in rural aviation for a brief period of time, and then joined Teal and worked in engineering inspection. Commenced there in 1963 and started as a flight engineer on the Electra in 1965. Was converted to the DC-8 in 1967 and then posted to Sydney for 2 years in 67 through, beginning of 68 in fact, through 69. 2 years over there and eating away the company's funds. It was, life was hell, but great posting. Did some training on the DC-8 and converted on to DC-10 in 73. He was on a flight on the DC-10 that I was with him on, and I think it displayed a very good demonstration of airmanship then. I was giving Gary a route check and we were coming out of Nandi, and there was a burning smell on the flight deck, terrible electrical, acrid smell, and I don't know much of this. Gary didn't either, obviously. And, we were trying to pin this down because you know what smoke's like, it could be anywhere and you can't pin it down. Every time we thought we were getting close to it, both pilots would light up cigarettes and that completely. And so it got to the stage that they decided that they had to go through the smoke of unknown origin checklist. And God, I didn't like this at all. Because, you know, it can take an awful long time to do this. And Gary did exactly what he should have done. He got out the checklist and said, we'll read through it first and determine what we've got to do and how we're going to go about it, and then we'll carry out the actions. So that was exactly right. And very fortunately, as he did that, he kind of relaxed a bit and he put his head under the seat and he let out a great yell and he came up with his hand burning, and what had happened was his seat motor was on fire. But it was most fortunate that he picked it in that fashion, because going through the checklist would have taken an awful long time.
He would have picked it in a different fashion.
Yes. So he's been involved with checking and training on the 747 for the last 5 years, and he's always thought issues through very well, and it's been most helpful with suggestions and looking at things very thoroughly, and we certainly appreciate the assistance that he's given us. Gary, good luck to you. Well, we're getting through the alphabet, and Warwick Underwood, he commenced his apprenticeship with Teal in 1960 and started flying as a flight engineer on Electras in 1965. Through all the fleet types as they came along. And Warwick is one who really has helped the flight engineers cause a great deal, because you know, although you wouldn't think it, he certainly doesn't put on any weight, but my God, he can eat. And there were a couple of noteworthy incidents when he first started. He was on the Electra, and because the flight engineer sat between the two pilots facing forward and could see what they had on their trays, and people would leave certain bits, and Warwick would take that and he'd take a plate of this and eat that, and to finish his tray was like, it was just mounted up in terrible mess. The steward came up to collect these and the used trays, and the pilots ones went out all right, and Warwick passed his across, hanging onto the corner of the tray, and as he got it over the navigator's head, the navigator was Shorty Butterworth, and the tray gave up, and Warwick was left hanging onto the corner, and the rest of the tray was upside down on the Shorty, who, of course, as you'd imagine, had a word or two to say about it. Another time when he was on the DC-10, remember, probably still happens in Los Angeles, the sandwiches are nice to get out of there, and they're normally passed onto the flight deck before flight. Warwick was sitting on the DC-10 in the engineer's seat, and the flight deck door's right there, and the galley's right outside, and the hostess passed in the tray of sandwiches. Warwick picked up the flight engineer's table lid, took the sandwiches into the drawer, closed the lid, passed the tray up, and said, "Hello, have you got any more?" So it's a great reputation that he has, and he's done us proud. But he also was good at other things. He was, he's a great personality, and has kept people amused over the years. He took up parachuting, and that certainly kept people amused, because they couldn't understand that this guy would kind of jump out of a perfectly serviceable aeroplane and do it to the extent that he did. But he certainly gave it his all, and gave a lot to the parachuting sport of parachute. The thing that Warwick has done has been a great example to us all. Various people have had licence problems with medical problems over the years, and Warwick certainly has. He overcame cancer, and was really, again, through determination and really adopting a positive attitude towards that, and so that he was able to regain his licence. And it was really delightful to see that, and of course he's continued throughout. And he's also been of great assistance to other people who've been involved with the disease, and continues to give a lot of time willingly to that today. And he was always said that he would go at the age of 15. He's gone just a little bit before that, but it worked out for him. He was able to take the benefit of the redundancy agreement and go with that. Warwick was all the best. Now, last but not least is Graham Walsh. Graham retired a year ago. And very fortunately for the company, we needed some more people, and Graham willingly continued on contract just for a year. We had to cut that a little bit short, but he certainly continued straight on. In fact, he kept on the next day, so we didn't say at the time that he's retired, and now we can catch up with him on this occasion and include him in this group. Graham was an apprentice in Teal and went overseas at the completion of his apprenticeship. Returned and rejoined the company in 1961 and commenced as a flight engineer on the Electra in 65. he too had a 2-year posting. This one was in Los Angeles, and that was the 67, 68 era. And because the other one who was there was Brian Grimwood, who was a navigator up there at the time. He went on to the DC-10 in 74 and the 747 in 81. And the thing, of course, that he's well recognised for is his the part that he played in bringing the hijacking that we had in Mandy to its conclusion. And it certainly demonstrated that Graham can think things through very clearly, and he certainly did on that occasion. As a result of that, he was last year awarded the Frank Durkin Award, which is an award given by the Flight Engineers International Association in recognition of holding the cause of flight engineering and its professionalism. And, I think it was certainly very well deserved, and very fine recognition of Graham's part in that incident. Graham's another one who's going up to Malaysia, so he's keeping on. And another thing, if I may just say, Graham, I'm sure a lot of you know, but Graham just got married very recently, and congratulations on that. Thank you. Fred just has something else that he'd like to say about Graham.
Yeah, the incident that Pete was talking about was an example of a common sense flight engineer approach to a problem, and as a result of resolving it. And I had quite a bit to do with Graham after that, of course. From time to time when we were talking about it, a wistful look would cross his course features, and he'd reflect on the fact that after the incident, the Swanage police had confiscated the bottle of whiskey because that was Exhibit A. But he knew that in the fullness of time they'd give it back. And time went by and the wistful look became a little more broad whenever he talked about it, and they never did. So we would like to rectify that right now.
One thing I'd like to say, just before we break all this up, there's one thing that I never ever forget is my teachers, both physical and fluid.
Now, of course, that was a whole bunch of people, and so we're not going to have everybody respond, but a few will. And firstly, I would ask Mike Hewitt if he would just say a few words.
Excuse me. First of all, I'd like to thank Peter for his kind words. And I'd answer to some of those things when I was down at Christchurch with Eddie Draper. We became experts at 20-minute delays. Everything we did down there was 20 minutes, and every time the traffic clerks came and asked us how long we meet, Eddie would say 20 minutes. In fact, we went all night one night with 20-minute delays. The other time when I was, when Peter was talking about that, when I had an ANSC licence in Electras, I actually suggested to the company that I do one of those trips across through to Tahiti, and as a service engineer. But I thought it would be quite a good perk actually flying along there. And all they offered me was a trip down to Christchurch, which I respectively declined. Maybe not quite such nice words.
Should have put forward as a suggestion. To save money.
Yeah, I've done 30 years of flying in the company, which I've enjoyed very much indeed. And I must thank you all for those nice times and pleasant times. I've been flying with a very neat group of people, interesting people, and I've had really enjoyable time. I must say I've had more laughs and tears over that period of 30 years. I'd also like to thank my wife Robin for the support she's given me over the last 27 years. We met as flight engineer and she was a hostess. At that stage, we were both at the bottom of the seniority list. I've also done almost 37 years in this company, and 37 years is a long time in anybody's imagination, I would think. And I've really taken, it's part of my life, and the welfare of the company has been sort of a thought of mine too. And I make this really more as an appeal than anything else, that this company really has only got one thing to sell, and that's a service. And that service depends on you people. And over the last couple of years, I've heard, and no doubt you have heard, that we need loyal, committed staff. And I agree with that statement too. We do need a loyal, committed staff. But we also need loyal, committed management. Management that will motivate and encourage and look after their staff, lead by example, and get the staff really moving. And I think this is one of the things that this company really needs, of both. We really need to operate as a team. And we've all done team management, and we know what's operating a team. So really, the management and the staff have got together to meet as a team. You know, we, or not so me, but you, are the company. And this is really one of my appeals to the company, or to you all, and the management as well. I really guess, and I know Fred has already initiated it, of having a target thing with their management team, but it really got to move on to you people too as well. We're all members of the company. And I'd like to thank you for flying with me and making my life so enjoyable. When I first started flying, it was more like a hobby, I would think, a way of life. It certainly wasn't a job. I enjoyed every minute of it. And I guess if you people enjoy the rest of your flying careers as much as I have, you'll have a very nice time. And I'd like to thank you very much. And I mean not just the flying people, but the office staff. And I see that Roster Clark here, Steve over here has helped me through the years. And you've all been very helpful and very kind, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Peter. Well, firstly, I'd like to start off by thanking the company very much for what's been a very, very rewarding career over the years. It's been it's been just on 31 years, just a few months short of that. And I've got a lot of very happy memories out of that time. It's just been incredible. I'd also like to thank our association for working so hard on our behalf over those years, and I'm sure you'll carry on the good work ahead. All right, but okay. I think the mainstay of the entire company, right throughout the entire spectrum of the company, are the people that we work with. And of course we're working with the flying people predominantly, but there's still a lot of other people that are in the background that we don't see so often. But nevertheless, my feeling goes out to all of them. And there's one thing that has perplexed me greatly, and that's the possibility, with so many of us leaving at the one time, there's a possibility of job loss in the staff kitchens. Well, I didn't start this, but I hope I think the best solution to it will be for all of the remaining members to double their nosh rate on chicken legs and sausage rolls, and that will be the solution to it. Well, thanks very much, folks, and I miss you all. Thank you.
Well, like Warwick, I guess I've got a lot to be thankful for. The sort of underlying theme of the time I've spent with Air New Zealand has been what's it like out there? Well, I'm about to find out, because after a sheltered career with Air New Zealand, and it does tend to be a bit sheltered because one doesn't have to worry too much. The big cold world is outside, and we'll see what happens in that sphere. I too have enjoyed my time with Air New Zealand. There's been a lot of great people that I've met. There's been a lot of interesting people I've met. And I'll go away with a number of memories of things that I've done, places that I've visited and enjoyed them. Unlike some of my peers, at this stage my plans for future flying would only extend to a microlight and less than feet off the ground. Even that's not definite. But
Camps are more dangerous.
only when you come to rest. But like those before me, I would like to say thanks to Air New Zealand and all the guys for permitting me or allowing me to achieve some of my goals and end where I am today. Thanks very much.
Barry O'Connor will speak on behalf of the rest of the group.
Okay, I'm going to just speak on behalf of the rest of the guys who have declined the opportunity to say something, and I'll keep it brief because I know you people up here must be thirsty, us guys down here. But anyway, I think I can speak for the rest of the people. First of all, by thanking you all for all the contribution you people have made to our careers. Mike touched briefly on the importance of the wife, and we must all acknowledge the tremendous pressure that wives and families are put under, you know, in our particular type of career. They stay at home with all the battles. We go away and sit in our hotel room studying all the time. And, you know, you laugh at that, but I went through a whole career of flying. I never ever had to swim in Honolulu. I was studying all the time. I'm a little bit depressed actually to find out the other day. I think there's another flight engineer who has also not had to swim in Honolulu. Anyway, it's been a good life, and I'm not going to reflect on my own career. It's been damn enjoyable, and it's been full of interest, and it's only had that interest factor because of all the different people we're with every day. Every day is different. A great bunch of people, and don't be too downhearted about the future of the company. I think the ingredients are all there. It's just a matter of getting the recipe right. At the end of the day, we're going to get a good cake out of the oven. And Fred, you can do your Alison Holes thing. Get the recipe right, and I don't think we have a problem. So on behalf of my compatriots, and especially the ones that are going off to Malaysia, I wish them well, as I'm sure you all do. And we all thank you wholeheartedly for the contribution you've made to our careers, and let's hope that we've made some contribution towards yours. Thank you.
As Barry said, the wives have played a significant part in keeping all of these fellows going, and in recognition of that, we'd like to present them with some flowers that we have here, and I would ask the wives to come forward, and Graham Walsh's daughter will also come forward. So if we could just Jenny.
Come on, Fred, give him a kiss. one more minute. One more minute. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. That's been 55 minutes, which is the longest set of presentations we've ever had. As Barry so perceptively remarked, in all that time none of you were drinking. As a man who has to pay for it, I've got no problem with that at all. Before we turn you loose, I'd say one thing, Mike, and it's you should always listen to your elders and your betters, and we have listened to that. And I think you made some comments that are pretty valid. So let's work together and see if we can do what you would like to see. Into the bar.